The rain fell in soft, relentless sheets over the small town of Ashwood, soaking the cracked pavement outside the diner where Jordan Carter worked. At 17, Jordan was the kind of kid who blended into the background, skinny with close-cropped hair and a pair of sneakers so worn the soles flapped when he walked. He didn't mind. As long as his 12-year-old brother Marcus had a full plate at dinner, nothing else mattered. Their apartment was a single room above a laundromat, the hum of dryers lulling them to sleep each night. Their mother had passed 3 years ago, and their father was a name neither spoke. Jordan worked 2 jobs mornings at the diner evenings as a janitor at the high school. He was used to being invisible. At Ashwood High, Jordan was the kid no one saved a seat for. His classmates caught up in their cliques, and college dreams barely noticed him. Teachers called on him only when they needed someone to blame for a messy desk or a forgotten textbook. "Carter, you're better than this," they'd say, their voices clipped as if they didn't believe it. Outside school, the diner wasn't much better. Customers tipped the other servers' white kids with easy smiles, but Jordan's hands often came back empty. He'd wipe down tables his head down, letting their whispers about that kid slide off him like rain. Tonight, though, something was different. The diner was quiet, the late shift dragging. Jordan was scrubbing a ketchup stain when he glanced out the window. An old woman stood under the awning across the street, her gray coat soaked through. She clutched a small bag to her chest, her shoulders hunched against the cold. People passed her, businessmen with umbrellas, teenagers laughing under hoodies, but no one stopped. Some smirked, others looked away. She'd been there for over an hour, unmoving like a statue forgotten by time. Jordan's manager, Carl, a stocky man with a permanent scowl, barked from the counter. Carter quit daydreaming and cleaned the coffee machine. Jordan nodded, but his eyes stayed on the woman. Something about her stillness tugged at him. He thought of his mother, how she'd wait for him outside school in the rain, never complaining. He grabbed his jacket. "Where are you going?" Carl snapped. "Shift's not over. Just a sec," Jordan said, already halfway out the door. The rain hit him like a slap, cold and sharp. He crossed the street, his sneakers splashing through puddles. Up close, the woman looked older than he'd thought, maybe 70, maybe more. Her face was lined, her eyes distant, but there was a quiet dignity in the way she stood, as if the world hadn't broken her yet. "Ma'am," Jordan said softly, "you okay?" She blinked, startled, like she hadn't expected anyone to notice her. Her voice was faint but clear. "I'm waiting for someone." "It's freezing out here," Jordan said. "Come inside. I'll get you some coffee." "On me." She hesitated, her fingers tightening around her bag. Then she nodded. Jordan led her into the diner, ignoring Carl's glare. He sat her at a corner booth away from the drafty door and brought her a steaming mug. Her hands trembled as she wrapped them around it, but she didn't drink. Instead, she looked at Jordan, her eyes searching his face. "Thank you," she said. "Most people, they don't see me." Jordan shrugged a little, embarrassed. "Ain't nothing. Just didn't want you out there alone." They sat in silence for a while. The diner's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting long shadows. Jordan noticed her coat was finely made, though worn, and her bag had a faint monogram stitched into the leather initials he couldn't quite make out. He didn't ask. He just stayed with her, refilling her coffee until the rain slowed to a drizzle. As she stood to leave, she touched his arm. Her fingers were cold, but her voice was warm. "People like you change the world." One quiet act at a time. Jordan didn't know what to say. He watched her step back into the night, her silhouette fading into the mist. He didn't understand her words, not yet. But something about them stayed with him, like a melody he couldn't shake. Back inside, Carl muttered something about wasting time, but Jordan barely heard him. He wiped down the counter, his mind on the woman wondering who she was waiting for, and why no one had come. The next evening, Jordan saw her again. Same spot, same gray coat, same stillness. The rain had stopped, but the air was heavy with the promise of another storm. He was on his way to his janitor shift, his backpack slung over one shoulder when he spotted her. This time she wasn't alone. A couple of kids from his school, juniors, loud and cocky, were circling her laughing. One tossed an empty soda can that landed near her feet. She didn't flinch, but her hands tightened around her bag. Jordan's jaw clenched. He dropped his backpack and walked over. "Yo, leave her alone," he said, his voice low but firm. The kids turned smirking. "What's it to you?" Carter one said. "She's just some crazy old lady." "She's a person," Jordan shot back. "Go mess with someone else." They laughed but backed off, tossing insults as they sauntered away. Jordan turned to the woman. "You okay, ma'am?" Her eyes met his, and for a moment they seemed sharper, like she was seeing something in him he didn't see himself. "You didn't have to do that," she said. "But you did." He shrugged, picking up her bag, which had slipped to the ground. It was heavier than it looked, and he caught a glimpse of something inside a leather-bound notebook, a glint of gold. He handed it back quickly, not wanting to pry. "You waiting again?" he asked. She nodded. "Always waiting. But tonight, I'm glad it's you who stopped." They walked to a nearby bench, out of the wind. Jordan didn't have much time before his shift, but he couldn't leave her there. She told him her name, Eleanor, and spoke in a way that felt oddly formal, like someone from another time. She asked about his life, his dreams. He didn't have much to say. "Just trying to keep my brother fed," he said. "Maybe get him to college one day." Eleanor listened, her face softening. "That's a good dream," she said. "Better than most." A police officer approached, his flashlight cutting through the dusk. "Everything all right here?" he asked, his tone skeptical. He looked at Jordan like he was trouble waiting to happen. "We're fine," Jordan said, meeting his gaze. The officer snorted. "Kid, don't waste your time. She's probably forgotten her own name." Eleanor's voice cut through, calm but firm. "I know exactly who I am, officer. And this young man is helping me. Perhaps you should do the same." The officer blinked, caught off guard, then muttered something and walked away. Jordan stared at Eleanor, surprised by the steel in her voice. She didn't seem like someone who needed saving. Yet there she was, alone, waiting. They talked a little longer. She mentioned a son, long gone, who'd be Jordan's age now. Her voice cracked when she said it, and Jordan felt a pang in his chest. He thought of Marcus, how he'd do anything to keep him safe. When Eleanor shivered, Jordan took off his scarf, a cheap frayed thing his mother had knitted, and wrapped it around her shoulders. She smiled a real smile, and for a moment, she didn't look so old. As they parted, a black car pulled up, its windows tinted. A man in a suit stepped out, nodding to Eleanor with a deference Jordan didn't understand. "Madam," he said, holding the door. Eleanor turned to Jordan, her eyes bright. "Tomorrow," she said. "I'll be here." Jordan nodded, confused but compelled. As the car drove off, something fell from her bag, a silver business card. He picked it up, his fingers brushing the embossed text, Eleanor V. Hamilton, Executive Chairwoman, Hamilton Holdings. He stared at it, his heart skipping a beat. Hamilton Holdings. The name was everywhere on billboards, office buildings, even the scholarship flyers at school. It couldn't be her. Could it? He shoved the card in his pocket and headed to work, his mind racing. The world felt bigger tonight, and he wasn't sure where he fit in it. Jordan couldn't sleep that night. The business card burned a hole in his pocket, its weight heavier than it should have been. Hamilton Holdings was a name that carried power, venture capital, real estate, philanthropy. The kind of company that shaped cities. And Eleanor V. Hamilton. She was a legend, a recluse who hadn't been seen in public for years. The card had to be a mistake, a coincidence. The woman he'd met was just Eleanor, an old lady waiting in the rain. But the next day he went back. He had to know. She was there as promised, sitting on the bench with her bag beside her. She looked different today, less frail, her posture straighter, like she'd been waiting for him. "You came," she said, her voice warm but knowing. Jordan held up the card, his voice unsteady. "This yours?" She didn't flinch. "It is." He shook his head, stepping back. "You're her, the Eleanor Hamilton." "But I thought you were homeless." She finished, a faint smile on her lips. "I let people think what they want. It's easier to see who they really are." Jordan's mind spun. He'd helped her because she needed it, not because of who she was. Now everything felt different. "Why didn't you say anything?" he asked. "Because you didn't need to know," she said. "You helped me anyway." Before he could respond, a crowd gathered nearby. Cameras, microphones, a news van. Jordan froze as Eleanor stood, her presence commanding. A man in a suit, her assistant Jordan realized, whispered something to her. She nodded and stepped toward the crowd, motioning for Jordan to follow. The press conference was about a new community center funded by Hamilton Holdings. Eleanor took the microphone, her voice steady and clear. "This project is about people," she said. "People like the young man standing behind me, Jordan Carter, who helped a stranger when no one else would. He reminded me what courage looks like." The crowd turned, cameras flashing. Jordan's face burned. He wanted to disappear, but Eleanor's hand on his shoulder kept him rooted. She went on describing how she'd been testing Ashwood, its people, its heart, by walking its streets as a nobody. Most failed, she said, but not him. Carl, the diner manager, was there, his face pale. The officer who'd laughed at Jordan stood stiffly at the edge of the crowd, avoiding Eleanor's gaze. Jordan saw them, but he didn't feel smug. He felt exposed, like the world was seeing him for the first time. After the conference, Eleanor pulled him aside. "You thought you were just being kind," she said. "But you changed my mind about this town, and I want to change your life." She offered him a scholarship, not just for him, but for Marcus too. A full ride to any college, plus a mentorship with her firm. Jordan's throat tightened. "I don't deserve this," he said. "I just did what felt right." "That's why you deserve it," she replied. "Kindness isn't common. It's power." As they spoke, a limousine pulled up. Eleanor's assistant opened the door, and she gestured for Jordan to join her. He hesitated, looking back at the street where he'd first seen her, the alley where he'd been invisible. He wasn't invisible anymore. He climbed in the door, closing with a soft thud. As the car pulled away, he felt the weight of the moment, a new chapter beginning, whether he was ready or not. 6 months later, Jordan stood in a suit that felt too big for him, though it fit perfectly. The community center's grand opening was packed: politicians, reporters, families from Ashwood. The building gleamed, its walls lined with photos of the town's history, including one of Jordan and Eleanor on that rainy night. He wasn't used to being noticed, but today people shook his hand, thanked him, asked for his story. He answered quietly, still unsure how to carry the weight of their respect. He'd started college, a business program, at a university he'd never dreamed of attending. Marcus was in a new school, one with art classes and a soccer team. Their apartment was gone. Eleanor had arranged a small house for them. Nothing fancy, but it had a yard where Marcus could play. Jordan didn't take it for granted. Every morning, he woke up expecting it to vanish. But it wasn't just about the gifts. Jordan had changed. He'd started a weekend program at the community center, serving meals to kids, like he used to be kids who felt unseen. He didn't talk much, but when he did, people listened. His voice carried the weight of someone who'd walked through fire and come out stronger. Carl was gone from the diner, fired after Eleanor's team reviewed the staff. He'd come to Jordan once, mumbling an apology, his eyes on the ground. Jordan didn't say much, just nodded. It wasn't about revenge. It was about moving forward. The officer who'd mocked him was there today, working security, his face blank. Jordan didn't need his regret. He'd already let it go. Eleanor was at the podium now, her gray coat replaced by a tailored blazer, but her eyes were the same sharp kind, unbreakable. She spoke about Ashwood's future, about second chances. Then she turned to Jordan, her voice softening. "You thought you saved me that night," she said. "But you saved me from forgetting who I was. You reminded me that power means nothing without heart." The crowd applauded, but Jordan barely heard it. He was thinking of his mother, how she'd taught him to do right, even when no one was watching. He thought of Marcus laughing in the yard, free from the weight Jordan had carried. He thought of Eleanor waiting in the rain, and how one moment had changed everything. Later, as the event wound down, Jordan walked outside. The bench where he'd sat with Eleanor was empty now, but he could still see her there, her scarf around her shoulders. He passed it every day, and sometimes kids from the center would sit there sharing snacks, telling stories. It wasn't just a bench anymore. It was a reminder. He stood at the edge of the crowd, looking over Ashwood. The town hadn't changed much, same cracked pavement, same flickering streetlights. But it felt different, brighter. He wasn't the kid in the shadows anymore. He was Jordan Carter, the one who'd stopped, who'd cared, who'd started something bigger than himself. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Eleanor joined him. She didn't say anything, just stood beside him, her presence steady. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Kindness doesn't make headlines, but it changes lives, quietly, one soul at a time. Jordan nodded, his eyes on the horizon. He didn't need to say anything. The world saw him now, not just for what he'd done, but for who he was. And for the first time, he saw himself, too.